This video demonstrates a new form of digital paint called Smart Brushes. The brush paints as normal but respects the underlying edges. So for example, we can paint the ribs of this dome without slopping over into the brickwork. In the case of this mushroom cap, we can paint the cap of the mushroom without getting over into the vegetation. The brush is under user's control, but the underlying algorithm is assisting the user in controlling what is painted and what is not. One existing technique is the flood fill. You select a region and it fills, but in this case it leaks out through the gaps, which is really inappropriate and hard to use. In the case of this dome, we get squirmy areas, and wherever there's texture, there are lots of speckles that have been emitted. Flood fill doesn't really do what we need. Another algorithm for assisting users is Intelligent Scissors. What it does is try to follow the strongest edge as the user makes a selection. This is an edge-oriented sort of selection, which makes it easy to surround the face very quickly. But when we actually fill the face, we lose all of the interior features. If we wanted those interior features, we would have to actually surround them all individually. As an edge tool, this is not the effective kind of interface that you want for the purposes we're interested in. We can also use Intelligent Scissors on our mushroom cap. Works fairly good across this edge here, separating the foliage from the mushroom. But when we surround the corner, it starts to miss the actual edge and then starts to skip around fine detail. The reason is that the algorithm is trying to optimize various shortcuts. Now there are manual ways to force it into particular grooves, but with this fine detail that would be tedious. We want an algorithm that helps us do this automatically. A third class of algorithms are the min graph cut algorithms, here represented by lazy snapping. We select a set of pixels that are inside and a set of pixels that are outside, and the min graph cut algorithm automatically finds a cut point. It's being color-based, as many of them are. This leaf off to our right has been included as part of the mushroom, which we didn't intend. We clean that up, and in the process we lose our mushroom cap. We fix that, and we now work our way down the stem. And as we continue our process, now the algorithm starts to fight with us, refusing to take our suggestions and cover the bottom of the mushroom.
This is a demonstration of Photoshop's Quick Select. We stroke across pixels that we're interested in, but then suddenly the algorithm jumps to a much wider region. We can actually use subtraction selection to back it up to what we really wanted, but this is not a nicely controlled interactive behavior. It's a more eager behavior where the algorithm is in charge and we're responsible for repairing what it does.
Our first smart brush is called the threshold brush. It behaves much like a flood fill, except that as it encounters edges, it sums their cost as it works its way out from the mouse point. When the cost exceeds a threshold, it stops. This gives us a limited brush, much like a flood fill, but not surging everywhere. Like a flood fill, it stops when it sees strong edges, as we see here. Some of the problems with this brush, however, can be seen on this mushroom cap. Like its fill ancestor, it tends to leave speckling and other kinds of islands. We improved our thresholded brush with what we call a competing brush. What happens is we compete with negative paint in from the perimeter and positive paint out from the mouse point. This competition, rather than a threshold, allows us to balance the kinds of textures. So in this case, all of the textures are relatively smooth. However, in the case of the mushroom, there's lots of texture, but the balance of texture coming in and the texture coming out gives some much closer control.
Here we're using the same brush with a different effect. It provides us a Gaussian blur instead of paint. We're taking out the wrinkles and freckles we don't want and retaining the wrinkles, smile lines, jawline that we do want, giving us artistic control with intelligent assistance from the brush. Here we're using a brush whose effect is to enhance the contrast, providing highlights on the hair. The brush helps us to stay within the hair and not flow over into the face, even being able to follow this strand of hair without interfering with the face. Here we're blending a background, adding additional darkening contrast without infringing upon the shirt or infringing upon the skin, one of the many effects that's possible with our brush.